All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers in tonight's video. You guys just ripped your first preseason game. Unfortunately, just lost 20-12 to the Houston Texans. However, folks, there was a lot of bright spots, mainly Justin Fields, George Pickens, Payton Wilson. We're going to run through it all in tonight's video. Folks, real quick, Justin Fields played the first half. This guy put on a clinic, but at the same time, he took two unfortunate sacks. There were also two fumbles. Now, keep in mind, Nate Herbig was the starting center. That's extremely important because hopefully Zach Frazier is the Steelers starting center week one of the regular season. But once again, he's a rookie. But Justin Fields, 5 of 6, 67 yards, averaging over 11 yards per completion. That one incompletion, if Mike Tomlin, if this was the regular season and he remembered he had this red flag in his pocket or somewhere on his body and he threw it, if he decided to throw that on the field, Justin Fields would have had an extended drive and that incompletion would have happened, and who knows what could happen from there. But folks, it's just preseason week number 1. I do like what I saw from Justin Fields. I do like what I saw, especially from Payton Wilson, Beanie Bishop. There were a lot of positives from Pittsburgh Steelers' first preseason game tonight, and that's what we're going to run through. But before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, along with many Steelers videos every single week. Steelers fans, I know it was a loss, but folks, your season is here. Preseason football is here. If we could try and get this video to 500 freaking likes, that would be very cool. All right, real quick. Once again, let's just summarize real quickly the important stuff. All right, Payton Wilson came out with a vengeance, or I shouldn't even say vengeance. Payton Wilson was drafted way too late. All right, if Payton Wilson did not have injury concerns or an injury, unfortunately, a pretty extensive injury history, Payton Wilson easily would have been a first-round draft pick. He probably would have been the first draft pick selected. However, just saying that out loud, I'm thinking about guys like Latu. There are some good defensive players picked out of the first round, but the only critique, folks, literally the only critique with Payton Wilson was his injury history. He had 6 total tackles tonight. He is going to find the field, and he's going to find the field immediately. The linebacker room for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the defense in general is way too talented. You have Patrick Queen, TJ Watt, Landon Roberts, Alex Highsmith, Cole Holcomb. I know he's a little bit banged up. Nick Herbig. I mean, folks, I think one thing we really saw tonight, this is a little bit off topic or a little ahead of schedule, Montravius Adams, DeMarvin Leal, Nick Herbig, Payton Wilson, Corey Trice, Beanie Bishop. I mean, this defense looks a little bit too talented for the National Football League. More on Payton Wilson a little bit later on. Let's get into Arthur Smith, because Justin Fields and Arthur Smith, or Russell Wilson, as we know, Russell Wilson is the scheduled slated week 1 starter as it stands right now. I loved what I saw from Arthur Smith in comparison to Matt Canada, but I will take that with a grain of salt because I kind of vaguely remember Kenny Pickett in the Steelers' first team offense this time last year. I'm pretty sure they went 5 of 5 or 6 for 6 with 5 or 6 consecutive touchdowns in their 3 preseason games. So I will take that with a grain of salt. Justin Fields, I think this kind of was a perfect representation for his NFL career here. I saw a bunch of tweets midseason form. You look, if you didn't watch this football game, the stats really show up. All right, like 5 of 6 for 67 yards. We saw the connection with Van Jefferson. We saw a connection with George Pickens. There's a lot of hype there. He had 2 sacks. Once again, not a good center playing. Once Zach Frazier stepped in for Nate Herbig, he had a lot more time to throw. Unfortunately, that was his second, or maybe it was his third possession. He only played the first quarter. Kind of hard to gauge if those sacks were even his fault. Kind of hard to gauge if those 2 fumbles were his fault. But I do just kind of feel like that is a good example of the way his NFL career has gone. It's just kind of this like confusion and mystery, like, is this Justin Fields issues, or is this who Justin Fields is playing with or playing for issues? I don't mean that in the sense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do in the sense of Nate Herbig. But, just for an example, like I said this in a Steelers video a couple of days ago. So many people hated it. Justin Fields, folks, technically has 38 fumbles and 38 career starts. I think only 11 of those were losses. But if you watch the first quarter, you can tell a fumble is like a loss of a couple of yards. It's just the loss of momentum. Any momentum, if you have it, it's something to keep an eye on as we go through our next, I just said hour. I'm a Packers fan. It's something to keep an eye on as you guys go through your next 2 preseason football games, something to keep an eye on during training camp, ball security, and just being smart, football IQ, not taking sacks when you don't need to. Granted, when you're going up against Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter, it is a little bit more difficult and a younger offensive line. But once again, once Zach Frazier stepped in, I really liked what I saw. Kyle Allen, 17 to 23, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. We did see a nice touchdown run, including 28 yards from Edwards. Kind of an intriguing running back. I've got your depth chart actually right here. I don't think he's anywhere close. He's technically the 5th running back on the roster. Dejon Edwards. I always call him Dejon Edwards, but that's the mustard. Dejon Edwards did have a nice game today. Moving forward, nothing too much from Jaylen Warren. He had a nice 9-yard carry. Nothing too much from Najee Harris. Once again, for first-string starters, you're just trying to ease these guys into the NFL speed, get them, back and acclimated and adjusted. Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, 2 phenomenal football games. Calvin Austin had 2 catches for 49 yards. Once again, remember talking about him last year. Still have very high hopes for Calvin Austin and his speed. And, he's going to make this roster, but I hope he has some type of defined role, or just at least some type of role with the ball in his hands. And then you had Scotty Miller, 3 catches, 47 yards. He had the longest receiving catch of the day, 38 yards from Kyle Allen. Moving down the line, you had Des Fitzpatrick, who's climbing up the depth chart. He had a nice 34-yard catch. And then real quick, speaking of Justin Fields and his connection with his wide receivers, George Pickens, 2 catches, 25 yards. And then we saw a catch from Van Jefferson for 20 yards. And then he unfortunately, just like Justin Fields, Mike Tomlin, we just have to keep reminding him. Obviously, this is a joke. It's not a very good joke. It's not going to hit very well. But, we just have to keep in mind, Mike Tomlin, we got to remind him he's got a couple of red flags, or he's got a red flag in his pocket. If he chooses to use it to do so, we'll wait and see. That didn't make sense. It's preseason. You get what I'm saying. Van Jefferson caught it. Justin Fields threw the completion. But there is definitely some chemistry there with George Pickens and Van Jefferson. I wanted to talk about a bunch more. Unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time here. Quez Watkins botched a fumble, or a punt return. He fumbled it. Not looking good. They decided to move forward with Scotty Miller. We didn't see any Cordell Patterson in the kick return today. But yeah, a little bit worried about Quez Watkins. On your depth chart, he is making the roster here. I think the battle right now is going to be between Scotty Miller, Des Fitzpatrick, and Quez Watkins. I think the more interesting battle here is going to be Quez Watkins and Des Fitzpatrick to move forward. Unfortunately, guys, we just ran out of time. We'll cover this game more in closely tomorrow. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content and way too many Steelers videos every single week. Folks, get me who you were very intrigued to see today. Let me know who your favorite was, and let me know who you don't think did all that great. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.